My fingers traced over the sleek mahogany desk, the same desk where she had once mocked my cute little startup dreams. Now, standing in my corner office on the 47th floor, I watched her fill out her employee paperwork below. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. The autumn rain pelted against the windows of our modest apartment as I hunched over my laptop, surrounded by business plans and market research. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The clock showed 3:27 a.m., but sleep was the furthest. You think from my mind. This was the third night this week I'd stayed up late, working on my e-commerce platform idea, and I could feel I was onto something big. Still playing entrepreneur. Sarah's voice cut through the quiet, dripping with disdain. I hadn't heard her walk into our small home office. "You should see these projections," I said, trying to contain my excitement. "If we can capture even 2% of the market share in the first year." "Market share?" She laughed, that sharp, dismissive laugh I'd grown increasingly familiar with. "Marcus, honey, you're an account manager at Patterson and Mills. That's what you're good at. That's what pays our bills. This little—" She gestured vaguely at my laptop. "Hobby of yours is cute, but let's be realistic." I straightened in my chair, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest whenever she dismissed my dreams. "It's not a hobby, Sarah. I've been developing this platform for months. The algorithm I've created could revolutionize how small businesses handle their inventory." "Oh, please," she cut me off, rolling her eyes. "You and your algorithms. Do you know what my father said when I told him about your big plans at dinner last week? He said, 'You're just another wannabe tech bro who—'" "You told your father?" The betrayal stung more than her mockery. Robert Williams was a prominent venture capitalist, someone I'd hoped to pitch to eventually. Now he probably saw me as nothing, more than his daughter's deluded husband. "Of course I did. Someone needs to help you see reality." Sarah walked over, placing her hand on my shoulder in a gesture that felt more condescending than comforting. "Look, we have a good life. You have a stable job. We're finally talking about buying that house in Brighton Hills. Why risk everything on some pipe dream?" I looked at my screen, at the platform I'd poured my heart into for the past 8 months. Every feature had been meticulously planned, every potential problem anticipated and solved. I knew deep in my gut that this could work, that this could be something extraordinary. "Because I believe in this," I said quietly but firmly, "and I thought you believed in me." Sarah's hand dropped from my shoulder. "I believe in stability, Marcus. In reality, not fantasies." She walked toward the door, pausing in the doorway. "Just promise me you won't do anything stupid. No quitting your job, no taking out loans. Promise me." I didn't answer, and she didn't wait for one. As her footsteps faded down the hallway, I turned back to my work, more determined than ever. What Sarah didn't know was that I'd already secured a small angel investment from a former client who'd seen the platform's potential. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get started. The next few weeks passed in a blur of late nights and early mornings. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to work on my platform before heading to Patterson and Mills, then come home and work until the early hours. Sarah's comments grew increasingly bitter, each one chipping away at what remained of our relationship. "Another late night with your imaginary company?" she'd sneer. "When are you going to grow up and focus on your real job? God, you're starting to sound like one of those motivational poster quotes. Dream big, never give up." It's embarrassing. But then came the day that changed everything. I was sitting in my cubicle at Patterson and Mills when I received an email that made my heart stop. Jason Zhang, a prominent tech investor known for his golden touch in the startup world, wanted to meet. He'd somehow heard about my platform through the grapevine and was intrigued. I rushed home that evening, bursting with news that I thought might finally make Sarah understand. She was in our kitchen, sipping her usual post-work glass of wine and scrolling through her phone. Sarah, you won't believe what happened today, I started, unable to contain my excitement. Jason Zhang wants to meet about the platform. Jason Zhang. She looked up from her phone, her expression unreadable. Who? Jason Zhang, the investor who backed Metrics Hub and Dataflow. He's interested in my platform. Sarah set down her wineglass, fixing me with a look I'd seen too many times before. Marcus, honey, don't get your hopes up. These investors take dozens of meetings a week. It probably won't lead to anything. But he reached out to me, I insisted. His email said the concept could be groundbreaking. Right, she drawled, picking up her glass again. Just like how you said that app idea of yours last year was going to be revolutionary, the one you abandoned after 2 months. The mention of my previous failed attempt stung, but this was different. I was different. That was before. This is real, Sarah. This could be our chance to build something incredible. Our chance? She laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. No, Marcus, this is your little fantasy. I have a real career, remember? I'm up for junior partner at the firm. I don't need your pipe dreams. I stood there, watching my wife of 5 years dismiss my dreams yet again, and something inside me finally snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. I saw with perfect clarity that Sarah would never support my ambitions, never believe in my potential. She was comfortable in her world of predictable success and inherited connections, and anything that threatened that comfort was to be mocked and dismissed. The meeting's tomorrow, I said quietly. I'm going with or without your support. Sarah's eyes narrowed. During work hours? You can't be serious? Patterson and Mills won't. I've already called in sick tomorrow. You're going to jeopardize your job for this. She stood up, her voice rising. Marcus, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being irresponsible, childish. No, Sarah, I cut her off, my voice steady. I'm being brave, and I'm done apologizing for believing in myself. As I walked out of the kitchen, I heard her call after me. When this fails, and it will fail, don't expect me to pick up the pieces. I paused in the doorway, not turning around. When this succeeds, and it will succeed, don't expect me to forget who believed in me and who didn't. That night, as I made my final preparations for the meeting, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. Tomorrow would either be the beginning of something extraordinary or another lesson in resilience. Either way, I knew one thing for certain. There was no going back to being the man who let his dreams be laughed at. The morning of my meeting with Jason Zhang, I woke before my alarm. Sarah's side of the bed was empty. She'd left early for court without a word. The silence in our apartment felt heavy with unspoken tensions, but I refused to let it dampen my spirits. As I adjusted my tie in the mirror, I noticed my hands were steady. This wasn't nervousness I was feeling, it was anticipation. I'd chosen a small coffee shop downtown for the meeting, away from the corporate bustle where Sarah and her lawyer, friends, frequented. As I waited, I couldn't help but notice how different the morning crowd was here. Entrepreneurs with their laptops, freelancers in casual wear, artists with their sketchbooks. These were my people, I realized. The dreamers, the risk-takers, the ones who dared to create something new. Jason Zhang arrived exactly on time, dressed in a casual blazer and jeans, a stark contrast to the stuffed suits I was used to at Patterson. And Mills, he had an easy smile and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Marcus Reynolds, he said, extending his hand. That prototype of yours has caused quite a stir in certain circles. My heart skipped a beat. Prototype? But I haven't shown it to anyone except... Then it hit me. David Henderson, my angel investor, must have shared it with his network. Jason's smile widened. The tech community is smaller than you think. When something genuinely innovative comes along, word travels fast. He sat down, pulling out his tablet. Show me everything. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. For the next 2 hours, I walked him through my platform, the proprietary algorithm that could predict inventory needs based on multiple data points, the user interface I'd designed to make it accessible to even the most tech-resistant small business owners, the scalability potential that could take this from local to global. Jason asked sharp, probing questions that showed he understood not just the technology, but the vision behind it. He wasn't just seeing what the platform was, he was seeing what it could become. You know, he said, leaning back after I'd finished my presentation, I take about 50 meetings like this every month. Want to know how many actually lead to something? Braced myself for disappointment. How many? Maybe one, maybe none. He paused, and I felt my hopes starting to sink. Then he smiled. But I think we just found our one for this month. The world seemed to stop for a moment. Are you saying... I'm saying I want to make you an offer. Not just funding, though that's part of it, but full incubator support, office space, mentorship, networking, the works. He pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. Come to my office tomorrow. Let's talk numbers. I stared. At the card, my mind racing. This was it, the moment every entrepreneur dreams of. But with the elation came a sobering thought. I would have to tell Sarah, and Patterson and Mills. As if reading my mind, Jason added, fair warning, this isn't a side hustle kind of deal. We'll need you all in. That means leaving your current job. I understand, I said, and I did. The safety net was about to be cut away. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Leaving the coffee shop, I felt like I was walking on air. I checked my phone, 3 missed calls from work and a text from Sarah. Hope you haven't done anything stupid. I almost laughed. According to her definition of stupid, I was about to do something monumentally foolish, but it felt right. More right than anything had in years. Back at our apartment, I spent the afternoon running numbers, preparing for the conversation I knew was coming. Sarah arrived home earlier than usual, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors with sharp, angry precision. Well, she demanded, finding me in the home office, how was your little meeting? I turned to face her, noting the defensive posture, the slightly raised chin. She was ready for a fight. It went well. Very well, actually. Jason Zhang wants to... I just got off the phone with my father, she interrupted, her voice cold. He heard through his channels that you're planning to leave Patterson and Mills. Is that true? The speed at which news traveled in their world never ceased to amaze me. Sarah, let me explain. Explain what? How you're planning to throw away a perfectly good career. How you're going to embarrass me in front of everyone we know. Her voice rose with each question. Do you have any idea what this could do to my reputation at the firm? Your reputation, I repeated, incredulous. This isn't about you, Sarah. This is about... Oh, grow up, she snapped. Everything we do affects both of us. When you fail, and you will fail, do you think people won't whisper? Did you hear about Sarah Williams's husband, the one who thought he could be the next Mark Zuckerberg? I stood up, my own anger finally rising to match hers. Jason Zhang is offering full incubator support, funding, mentorship, everything. This isn't some fantasy anymore. This is real. Sarah laughed, but there was a note of uncertainty in it now. Jason Zhang. The same Jason Zhang who backed 6 failed startups last year, and 4 successful ones, including Metrics Hub, which just sold for $300 million, I counted. He believes in my platform, Sarah. Why can't you? Because I know you, Marcus. You're not a risk-taker. You're not an entrepreneur. You're a reliable, steady, middle management type. That's who I married. Her words hit me like a physical blow, not because they hurt, but because they revealed so much. No, I said quietly. That's who you thought you married. That's who you wanted me to be. But it's not who I am. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm taking the deal. I'm quitting Patterson and Mills tomorrow. Sarah's face went pale. "If you do this, if you throw away everything we've built, I swear, Marcus." "You'll what?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Leave me?" "Maybe you should. Because the man you want me to be, he doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did." She stared at me, her perfectly manicured hands trembling slightly. "You're making a huge mistake." "No," I said, feeling calmer than I had in months. "My mistake was letting you make me doubt myself. For so long. That ends now." Sarah's next words came out in a harsh whisper. "When this fails, don't come crying to me or my father for help. You'll be on your own." "I already am," I replied. "I have been for a long time. I just didn't want to admit it." She turned and stormed out of the office, slamming the door behind her. A few minutes later, I heard her on the phone in our bedroom, presumably updating her father on my foolishness. I turned back to my computer, opening my resignation letter to Patterson and Mills. As I typed the final sentences, I felt none of the fear Sarah expected me to feel. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, pure, unadulterated hope. My phone buzzed, a text from Jason Zhang. "Looking forward to tomorrow. Bring your A-game." I smiled, saving the resignation letter. Sarah and her father thought. They knew exactly how this story would end. They saw me as a cautionary tale in the making, another dreamer who reached too high and fell hard. But they had forgotten something crucial. Sometimes the dreamers win, and I intended to win big. Next morning, I walked into Patterson and Mills for what I knew would be the last time. The familiar scent of coffee and printer toner, the hum of fluorescent lights, the clicking of keyboards. It all felt somehow distant now, like I was watching a movie of my old life rather than living it. "Reynolds," the booming voice of Richard. Patterson himself stopped me before I reached my cubicle. "My office, now." As I followed the silver-haired executive into his corner office, I noticed Sarah's father, Robert Williams, sitting in one of the leather chairs. My heart sank. Of course he'd be here. Sarah must have called him last night. "Sit down, son," Patterson said, his tone deceptively friendly. "Bob here tells me you're planning to leave us. Something about a startup?" I sat straight in my chair, meeting both men's eyes. "Yes, sir. I was planning to submit my resignation this morning." "Marcus," Robert leaned forward, his expensive suit creasing slightly. "I've known you for 5 years. You're a good man, reliable, smart. Don't throw that away on some technical experiment." "It's not an experiment, Mr. Williams. Jason Zhang has—" Yes, Zhang," Patterson interrupted, sharing a knowing look with Robert. "Bob tells me he's offered you some sort of deal. What did he promise you? Millions? An IPO? A corner office? Like this one?" "He offered me a chance to build something meaningful," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "The platform I've developed—" Marcus, Robert cut in, his tone patronizing. "I've been in venture capital for 30 years. Do you know how many bright-eyed young men I've seen with revolutionary ideas? How many of them are still around? With all due respect, sir, my platform is different. The algorithm—" "Let me make you a counteroffer," Patterson interjected, pulling out a folder. "Senior account manager, 15% raise, better benefits, your package, and a clear path to junior partner within 2 years. He slid the folder across his desk. "All you have to do is forget this startup nonsense." I stared at the folder, but didn't touch it. 5 years ago, this offer would have seemed like a dream come true. Now it felt like golden handcuffs. "That's very generous," I said carefully, "but I've made my decision." Robert's friendly demeanor vanished. "Think about what you're doing, Marcus. Think about Sarah, about your future." "I am thinking about my future. That's why I have to do this." Patterson's face hardened. "Reynolds, let me be clear. If you walk out that door, there's no coming back. No references, no recommendations. You'll be burning bridges you can't rebuild." I stood up, straightening my tie. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Patterson, and thank you for making this decision easier." I placed my resignation letter on his desk. Consider this my 2 weeks' notice, though I understand if you'd prefer I leave immediately. Get out, Patterson growled. Security will escort you to clear your desk. As I walked out of the office, Robert called after me. You're making a huge mistake, son, one you'll regret for the rest of your life. I paused at the door, turning back to face them both. No, sir. My only mistake was waiting this long to leave. The next hour passed in a blur of cardboard boxes and pitying looks from co-workers. By noon, I was standing on the sidewalk outside Patterson and Mills, my personal belongings in a single box, my career in corporate America officially over. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Dad just told me. I can't believe you actually did it. Don't come home tonight. I can't even look at you right now. I typed back. I'll stay at Mike's. Mike had been my best friend since college, the only person besides David Henderson who'd believed in my platform from the start. Instead of going to Mike's, though, I headed straight to Jason Zhang's office in the city's bustling tech district. The difference between this building and Patterson and Mills couldn't have been more stark. Gone were the stuffy suits and silent elevators. Here, people wore what they wanted, talked animatedly about projects, and radiated an energy that felt electric. Jason's assistant led me to a large open workspace where he was standing with a group of people, gesturing at a whiteboard covered in diagrams. Marcus, he called out when he saw me. Perfect timing. Team, this is the man I was telling you about, the inventory prediction platform. It's going to revolutionize how small businesses operate. The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, technical discussions, and planning sessions. The team Jason had assembled was brilliant. Developers who'd worked at top tech companies, UX designers with impressive portfolios, marketing specialists who understood the small business market. Inside and out. Your algorithm is solid, said Lisa Chen, the lead developer, after reviewing my code. But with a few tweaks, we could make it even more powerful. Have you considered incorporating machine learning for pattern recognition? I hadn't, but the possibility made my mind race with new ideas. This was what I'd been missing at Patterson and Mills, the excitement of collaboration, the thrill of pushing boundaries. As the day wound down, Jason pulled me aside. One thing we need to discuss, he said, his expression serious. The investment package includes a clause about potential competitors. You'll need to be prepared for some pushback, especially from established players in the market. Like who? Well, for one, Williams Venture Capital has a significant stake in Inventory Pro. He watched my reaction carefully. Your father-in-law's firm. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. No wonder Robert Williams had been so adamant about me staying at Patterson and Mills. My platform wasn't just a foolish dream to him. It was a potential threat to his existing investments. That won't be a problem, I said firmly. My personal relationships won't affect my commitment to this project. Jason nodded, satisfied. Good, because things might get ugly. The established players don't like disruptors, and from what I've seen, your platform could disrupt the entire industry. On my way to Mike's place that evening, I stopped at a small bar to gather my thoughts. The day's events swirled in my mind. The confrontation at Patterson and Mills, Sarah's text, the revelation about her father's business interests, the excitement of meeting my new team. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sarah. Just talked to Dad. He told me about your little scene in Patterson's office. You're not just ruining your career, you're ruining our life. I want you out of the apartment by the end of the week. As I stared at the message, I felt a strange sense of liberation. Sarah had meant it as a punishment, but she was actually setting me free. Free from the constant criticism, the doubt, the suffocating expectations of her world. I ordered another drink and opened my laptop. While Sarah was probably ranting to her friends about her husband's midlife crisis, I had work to do. The platform needed those tweaks Lisa had suggested, and I had a presentation to prepare for tomorrow's strategy meeting. "Rough day?" the bartender asked, noticing my intense focus on the screen. I looked up, smiling. Actually, it might be the best day of my life. I just didn't know it this morning. He raised an eyebrow, but I turned back to my work. Let Sarah and her father think I was having a breakdown. Let Patterson tell everyone how I'd lost my mind and thrown away a promising career. They would all see soon enough. Because while they were busy talking about my failure, I was busy building my success. And something told me it was going to be bigger than any of them could imagine. 6 months into development, our platform was taking shape beautifully. The team had grown to 15 people, each bringing their own expertise and passion to the project. We'd moved from Jason's incubator space to our own office. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. The prototype had evolved into something far more powerful than I'd initially envisioned, thanks largely to Lisa's brilliant programming and the team's collective innovation. I'd barely spoken to Sarah in all this time. She'd arranged for her lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings, making it clear she wanted nothing to do with my failed venture. I was living in a small but comfortable apartment near our office, throwing myself completely into the work. The only communications I received from her world were occasional condescending messages from her father, each one predicting my imminent downfall. That morning started like any other. I was in early, reviewing user testing feedback with Lisa, when Jason burst into the office, his usual calm demeanor replaced with barely contained excitement. "Marcus, turn on the financial news. Now." I pulled up the stream on my laptop, and the blood drained from my face. The headlines scrolled across. The bottom of the screen: Inventory Pro security breach exposes millions of small business records. "That's Robert's company," I breathed, watching the chaos unfold on the screen. Inventory Pro, my father-in-law's prize investment, had suffered a catastrophic data breach. Small businesses across the country were finding their sensitive inventory and pricing data exposed. "Keep watching," Jason said, pulling up a chair. The news anchor's voice was grave. "Inventory Pro's stock has plummeted 60% in early trading as thousands of small business owners scramble to secure their data. The company's CEO has issued a statement promising a thorough investigation, but industry experts say the damage to customer trust may be irreparable." Lisa leaned in, her eyes wide. "Their entire system is built on centralized servers. They store everything in one place. That's exactly what we designed our platform to avoid." She was right. Our platform used a decentralized approach with multiple layers of security and encryption. It was one of our key differentiating features, something I'd insisted on from the start. "That's not all," Jason said, pulling up his tablet. "Look at these messages. Every small business forum, every industry group, they're all talking about jumping ship from Inventory Pro. They need an alternative, and they need it now." I sat back, my mind racing. "But we're not ready for launch. We're still at least 2 months away from—" "No," Lisa interrupted, pulling up our development timeline. "We can be ready in 2 weeks. The core features are solid. The security is ironclad. Everything else can be rolled out in updates." 2 weeks? I looked at Jason. "Can we do it?" He grinned. "We have to. This is our moment, Marcus. While Inventory Pro is dealing with this crisis, we can position ourselves as the secure, reliable alternative. The market is practically begging for us to launch." The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Our team worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and the knowledge that we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Lisa and her developers fine-tuned every aspect of the security system. The marketing team crafted messaging that emphasized our platform's safety features without directly attacking Inventory Pro. Everyone understood the stakes. The night before our launch, I was alone in the office, double-checking everything. Final time, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Marcus." It was Robert Williams' voice, sounding older and more tired than I'd ever heard him. "We need to talk." I sat up straighter. "I'm listening." "Inventory Pro is bleeding customers. Our stock is worthless. The board is calling for resignations." He paused. "I understand your platform is launching tomorrow. News travels fast. Don't do this, Marcus. Give us time to recover. If you launch now, you'll destroy what's left of my company. Think about Sarah. I thought about all the times he'd dismissed me, all the times he'd treated me like a deluded fool. I am thinking about Sarah, Mr. Williams. I'm thinking about how both of you believed I would fail, how you tried to stop me every step of the way. I'll make you a deal," he said, his voice taking on that familiar, condescending tone. "Hold off on your launch. Give us 6 months to rebuild. I'll give you a stake in Inventory Pro, a seat on the board, the kind of position you've always wanted." I almost laughed. "The position I've always wanted? You never understood me at all. Did you? I never wanted a seat at your table. I wanted to build my own." "Don't be a fool, Marcus. You're talking about turning down. Goodbye, Mr. Williams. Good luck with the board." I hung up, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt sorry for him. Watching his empire crumble couldn't be easy. But a larger part remembered his sneering dismissal of my dreams, his attempts to keep me in what he considered my proper place. My phone buzzed again. Sarah this time. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text. "Dad just told me what you're planning. How dare you take advantage of this situation? After everything our family did for you," I typed back. "I'm not taking advantage. I'm competing. That's business." Her response was immediate. "You're nothing but an opportunistic snake. I'm glad I'm divorcing you." I put the phone away and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow, everything would change. Our platform would launch into a market desperately seeking an alternative to Inventory Pro. We had superior technology, better security, and most importantly, no baggage of broken trust. Still here? I turned to see Lisa standing in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Just making sure everything's perfect for tomorrow," I said, accepting one of the cups. She smiled. "It's more than perfect. It's revolutionary. You know that, right? What you've built here, it's going to change everything." "What we've built," I corrected her. "I couldn't have done this alone." "True," she laughed, "but it was your vision, your determination. Most people would have given up when faced with the kind of opposition you dealt with." I thought about that opposition, Patterson's threats, Robert's condescension, Sarah's constant undermining of my confidence. In a way, they had all helped make this moment possible. Their doubt had only fueled my determination. "Get some rest," Lisa advised, heading for the door. "Tomorrow's going to be intense." After she left, I sat at my desk, opening my laptop one last time. Our platform's dashboard glowed on the screen, clean and intuitive, ready to serve thousands of businesses. On another tab, Inventory Pro's stock price continued its downward spiral. Sarah and her father had always seen me as small, insignificant, someone who should be content with the scraps from their table. Tomorrow, they would understand just how wrong they had been. Tomorrow we would rewrite the rules of the game. I closed my laptop and gathered my things, taking one last look around the office. In just a few hours, we would either make history or become another failed startup cautionary tale. But unlike those tension-filled nights in my old apartment, working on my dream while Sarah mocked my efforts, I felt no fear. The time for doubt was over. Tomorrow belonged to the dreamers. Launch day arrived with the kind of perfect clarity that only comes after a sleepless night. I stood in our office at 6 a.m., watching the sun rise over the city skyline. Our team gathered around their workstations, all eyes fixed on their screens. The platform would go live in exactly 1 hour. "Server load testing complete," Lisa announced, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "All systems green." Jason paced behind us, phone pressed to his ear. "CNBC wants an interview at 9, Bloomberg at 10. Forbes is running a feature on the future of inventory management and wants your comment." I nodded, barely hearing him. My focus was on the user counter on my screen, currently showing 0. In 60 minutes, we would know if all our work, all the sacrifice, had been worth it. "5 minutes," Lisa called out. The room fell silent, except for the hum of computers and the rapid tapping of keys. I thought about Sarah, about Robert Williams, about Richard Patterson. They were probably starting their normal routines, heading to their prestigious offices, confident in their positions in the world. 1 minute, I took a deep breath. Start the sequence. Lisa began the launch protocol. On the main screen, we watched as our platform went live across different servers worldwide. The user counter flickered. 1 user, 10 users, 100. "We're getting sign-ups from the East Coast," someone called out. "West Coast is coming online." European markets are responding. The numbers kept climbing. 500, 1,000, 10,000. With each new user, our servers hummed with activity, but our system remained rock solid, exactly as designed. By 8 a.m., we had over 50,000 businesses signed up for trials. By 9 a.m., that number had doubled. The tech press was calling it the fastest enterprise software adoption rate in history. I was in the middle of the Bloomberg interview when my phone started buzzing incessantly. Sarah's father, Sarah herself, Patterson, even old colleagues from Patterson and Mills. I switched it to silent and focused on the interviewer's questions. "Mr. Reynolds, your platform's launch comes at a particularly difficult time for the industry leader, Inventory Pro. Was this timing deliberate?" I smiled, maintaining my composure. "We've been developing our platform for over a year. Our focus has always been on creating the most secure, efficient system possible for small businesses. The market clearly shows there's a need for what we've built. Sources say Inventory Pro's stock has fallen another 30% since your launch. Any comments?" "I can't comment on other companies. What I can say is that we're focused on serving our customers and delivering the best possible product." The day continued, in a blur of interviews, meetings, and constant updates from the team. By closing bell, we had over 200,000 businesses signed up. Inventory Pro's stock had fallen to historic lows, and business news channels were running headlines about the new king of inventory management. It was nearly midnight when I finally had a moment to check my messages. The first was from Sarah. "You planned this, didn't you? You knew about Inventory Pro's vulnerabilities somehow. Dad's board is calling for his resignation. You've destroyed our family's reputation. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without responding. The next was from Robert Williams himself. "Marcus, let's talk. Whatever bad blood exists between us, we can work something out. Inventory Pro's board meets tomorrow. Give me something to offer them." Delete from Patterson. "Reynolds, impressive work today. Let's discuss your return to Patterson and Mills. Senior partnership track." Delete. The last message was from an unknown number. When I opened it, I felt my breath catch. It was from my father, who I hadn't spoken to in years. "Saw you on Bloomberg today, son. Your mother would have been proud." That one I saved. Still processing everything? I looked up to see Lisa standing in my office doorway, 2 cups of coffee in hand, a mirror of last night's scene, but everything was different now. "Hard to believe it's real," I admitted, accepting the coffee. She sat down across from me. "Oh, it's real. We've already processed over 1 million transactions. The system is performing even better than we projected. And wait until you see tomorrow's numbers. Asia's markets are just waking up." I nodded, taking a sip of coffee. "Any security issues?" Not a single breach attempt has made it past our first layer of defense. Meanwhile, Inventory Pro is still trying to contain their damage. Their customers are jumping ship by the thousands. Sarah thinks we somehow planned this, I said more to myself than to Lisa, that we knew about Inventory Pro's vulnerabilities and timed our launch to take advantage. Lisa snorted. Yeah, because building a revolutionary platform from scratch, in secret, while working with a skeleton crew, was the easy way to success. We just got lucky with the timing. Luck favors the prepared, I quoted, remembering something Jason always said. Speaking of prepared, Lisa pulled out her tablet. Wait until you see these projections for next quarter. At our current adoption rate. As she walked me through the numbers, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. This wasn't just a successful launch, it was a complete paradigm shift. We hadn't just built a better product, we'd changed the entire conversation about how business software should work. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Robert Williams. The board meeting is at 9 a.m. Please, Marcus, think about Sarah's future, our family's legacy, I thought. About Sarah's future, the one she'd been so certain of, built on her father's connections and her family's reputation. I thought about the legacy Robert Williams had tried to protect by keeping people like me in their proper place. You're not going to help them, are you? Lisa asked, noting my expression as I read the message. I shook my head. They never helped. Me. Besides, the market has spoken. Inventory Pro failed because they got complacent. They thought their position was untouchable. Unlike some people I know, Lisa grinned, who never stop pushing to make things better. She was right. Even now, with all our success, my mind was already working on improvements, expansions, new features we could add. This wasn't the end of our journey. It was barely the beginning. I looked around my office, thinking about how far we'd come from those late nights in my old apartment, working alone on a dream everyone else mocked. Now that dream employed dozens of people, served hundreds of thousands of businesses, and was revolutionizing an entire industry. Get some rest, Lisa advised, standing up. Tomorrow's going to be another big day. As she left, I turned to the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Sarah and her father were probably still trying to figure out how to stop what was happening. They didn't understand that it was already too late. The future had arrived, and it belonged to those who had dared to imagine it differently. I picked up my phone and typed out a single response to Robert Williams. The board meeting's at 9 a.m. Perfect. That's exactly when we're announcing our new enterprise features. Good luck. Then I turned off my phone, gathered my things, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and undoubtedly new attempts by the old guard to protect their territory. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking in anyone else's shadow. I was casting my own. Success, I was learning, came with its own kind of pressure. 3 months after our launch, our platform was serving over 1 million businesses worldwide. Inventory Pro had filed for bankruptcy protection, and Robert Williams had been forced to resign in disgrace. Our company, once a small team of dreamers, had grown to over 200 employees. I sat in my new office, larger and more impressive than Patterson's had ever been, reviewing acquisition offers from tech giants. Each one promised billions, but they all wanted the same thing: control of our platform and its revolutionary technology. Google's offer just increased by 30%, Jason announced, walking in with his tablet. They're getting desperate, and Amazon just reached out again. I shook my head, pushing aside the stack of offers. We're not selling. I agree, Jason said, sitting down. But that's not why I'm here. Have you seen this? He handed me his tablet, open to a business magazine's website. The headline made my stomach turn. The Dark Side of Success, How Marcus Reynolds Destroyed His Father-in-Law's Legacy. The article was a hit piece, clearly sourced from the Williams family. It painted me as a calculating opportunist who had deliberately timed our launch to coincide with Inventory Pro's vulnerable moment. There were vague implications that I might have had inside information about their security weaknesses. Sarah's handiwork? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Jason nodded. Her name's all over it, though not directly quoted. She's been making the rounds in their social circle, spreading rumors. I should have expected this. Sarah had always been skilled at managing narratives in their world. Now she was trying to rewrite our story, casting herself as the loyal daughter and me as the villain who had destroyed her family's legacy. There's more, Jason continued, looking uncomfortable. Robert Williams is giving a speech at the National Business Forum next week. Word is he's planning to make some accusations. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a headache coming on. Let me guess. He's going to suggest we had insider knowledge about Inventory Pro's vulnerabilities, that we deliberately sabotaged them. Something like that. Look, Marcus, we need to get ahead of this. The tech press loves a scandal, and a knock at the door interrupted us. Lisa stood there, her expression serious. Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. She pulled up a video on the office's main screen. It was Sarah giving an interview to a major business network. She looked perfectly polished, every inch the wronged daughter of privilege. My father built Inventory Pro from nothing, she was saying, tears gleaming in her eyes. He helped thousands of small businesses succeed. And then my ex-husband. She paused for effect. Someone my father had trusted like a son, someone our family had supported for years, deliberately timed his attack to destroy everything we'd built. The interviewer leaned forward. Are you suggesting your ex-husband had inside information about Inventory Pro's vulnerabilities? Sarah dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. All I know is that Marcus had access to our family's business discussions for years. He knew exactly when and where to strike. I clicked off the screen, my jaw tight. She's trying to set up a narrative for her father's speech next week. Marcus, Lisa said quietly, we need to respond to this. The team is getting nervous. Some of our newer clients are asking questions. She was right. In the tech world, perception could become reality very quickly. If enough people started believing Sarah's version of events, it could damage everything we'd built. Get me every record of our platform's development, I said to Lisa. Every Git commit, every test log, every design document. I want a complete timeline, showing exactly how and when we built our security features. Already done, she replied with a slight smile. I had a feeling we'd need it. Want to see something interesting? She pulled up our development logs, scrolling. To a specific date. Look at this. The core security architecture we used, we designed it 6 months before Inventory Pro's breach. We have documented proof that our approach to decentralized security was completely original and predated their crisis. Jason's eyes lit up. This is perfect. We can prove that our success wasn't about timing. It was about having a fundamentally better approach to the problem. I stood up, walking to the window. Below, I could see our expanded office space under construction, room for the hundreds of new employees we'd need to keep up with our growth. We'd earned every bit of this success through innovation and hard work, not through some underhanded scheme. Set up a press conference, I decided, before Robert's speech. We'll present our evidence, but we'll do it our way. No attacks, no accusations, just the truth. There's something else you should know, Lisa added, her voice gentler now. Sarah's been reaching out to some of our employees, especially the new hires, offering them jobs at a new company she's helping to set up. I turned back from the window. What kind of company? A direct competitor. She's working with some former Inventory Pro executives to build a new generation platform. They're calling it Secure Flow. The irony would have been amusing if it wasn't so frustrating. After years of mocking my entrepreneurial dreams, Sarah was now trying to copy our success. How many employees have jumped ship? I asked. None, Lisa replied with a proud smile. They all reported her approaches to HR. The team believes in what we're building here, Marcus. They're loyal to our vision. That hit me hard. While Sarah and her father were trying to tear us down with lies and manipulation, our people were standing firm. They believed in the company we'd built, in the culture of innovation and integrity we'd created. My phone buzzed. Another message from Sarah. It's not too late to make this right. Call off your press conference, admit what you did, and maybe we can salvage something from this mess. I showed the message to Jason and Lisa. She still thinks she has leverage. She still doesn't understand what we actually built here. What are you going to do? Jason asked. I typed out my response. The press conference stands, the truth stands, and this time, Sarah, you're not going to be able to rewrite it. Looking up at my team, I felt a surge of determination. Get me everything. We have development logs, security audits, client testimonials. It's time to show the world exactly how we revolutionize this industry and why. And Robert's speech? Lisa asked. Let him make his accusations. When we're done showing our evidence, no one will believe them anyway. I paused, then added, but first I need to make a call. They left me alone in my office, and I dialed a number I hadn't called in months. After 3 rings, a familiar voice answered. Patterson and Mills, Richard Patterson speaking. Mr. Patterson, it's Marcus Reynolds. I believe you have some experience dealing with Robert Williams when he makes unfounded accusations. I'd like to hear about it. There was a long pause, then a dry chuckle. Well, finally learned to play hardball, have you, Reynolds? Come by my office in an hour. I'll tell you everything you need to know about Robert's creative approach to the truth. As I hung up, I felt the last piece of our defense falling into place. Sarah and her father thought they could destroy us with lies and manipulation, the same tactics they'd always used to maintain their position in the world. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. In the age of digital footprints and documented development, the truth wasn't just morally right, it was provable. And we had the receipts for every step of our journey. Richard Patterson's office hadn't changed since the day I'd resigned. Same imposing mahogany desk, same city view, same air of old money power. But this time, I wasn't here as a supplicant. I was here as an equal. Or perhaps more. I have to admit, Patterson said, pouring 2 glasses of scotch, watching Robert Williams get his comeuppance has been entertaining. The man's had it coming for years. I accepted the offered glass, but didn't drink. I'm surprised to hear you say that. I thought you two were friends. Patterson's laugh was sharp and bitter. Friends, 20 years ago, he tried to take over Patterson and Mills through some very similar tactics. Spreading rumors, making accusations, trying to damage our reputation. Sound familiar? What happened? We survived because we had documentation. Proof that his accusations were lies. Patterson leaned forward. But you already knew that, didn't you? That's why you're here, I nodded. I need to understand his playbook, and I need to know if you're willing to go on record about what he did to your firm. Patterson studied me for a long moment. You know, Reynolds, the day you walked out of here, I thought you were making the biggest mistake of your life. I was wrong. You've built something remarkable. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a file. Everything Robert did. Every lie. He told every underhanded tactic. It's all in here. Use it however you want. Back at our office, the team was in full crisis management mode. Lisa had assembled a comprehensive timeline of our platform's development, complete with timestamps, code commits, and security audit logs. Jason had gathered testimonials from our earliest clients and investors. Marcus, you need to see this, Lisa called out as I walked in. She pulled up an email on her screen. Someone from Sarah's new company, SecureFlow, tried to hire one of our junior developers. Look at what they're offering. The email showed a compensation package that was absurd for a junior position. clearly designed to poach our talent and our technological insights. Did anyone accept? I asked, though I already knew the answer from Lisa's smile. Better than that, she replied. They documented everything and reported it to the SEC. Apparently, offering inflated compensation for trade secrets is frowned upon. I sat down at my desk, processing this new information. How's the press conference preparation going? We're ready, Jason said, pulling up a presentation. Complete development timeline, security architecture documentation, client testimonials. And now, with Patterson's evidence about Robert's history of false accusations. We're not using that, I interrupted. Both Jason and Lisa looked at me in surprise. But Marcus, Jason protested, it's perfect ammunition. It shows a pattern of behavior. I shook my head. We don't need ammunition. We don't need to attack them. At all. We're going to win this our way with innovation, transparency, and truth. Just then, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Robert Williams's pre-speech interview was airing. I turned on the office TV. Mr. Williams, you're claiming that your former son-in-law used insider knowledge to time his company's launch? Robert looked older than I remembered, but his arrogance was unchanged. Marcus Reynolds spent years in our family, privy to confidential information. The timing of his launch, just as our security issues emerged, cannot be coincidental. And what about the success of his platform, the technological innovations? Robert's smile was cold. Let's just say there are serious questions about the origin of that technology. Questions that will be addressed in my speech tomorrow. I turned off the TV. Lisa, call a team meeting. Everyone, right now. 20 minutes later, our entire company was gathered in the main workspace. 200 people, from senior developers to new hires, all looking to me for direction. By now, you've all heard the accusations, I began. You've seen the interviews, read the articles. They're saying we built our success on stolen knowledge, that we timed our launch to take advantage of a competitor's weakness. The room was silent, every face focused on mine. But you know the truth. You were here. You built this platform from the ground up. Every line of code, every security feature, every innovation, it came from your hard work and creativity. I gestured to the walls around us, where we'd posted our company values: innovation, integrity, impact. Tomorrow, Robert Williams will give a speech trying to destroy what we've built. He'll make accusations, spread doubt, try to damage our reputation. He thinks that's how you win in business, by tearing others down. I paused, making eye contact with team members throughout the room. We're going to prove him wrong, not by fighting his lies with more lies, not by slinging mud or making counter-accusations. We're going to win by showing the world exactly who we are and what we stand for. Lisa stepped forward. The press conference is scheduled for 9 a.m., 1 hour before Robert's speech. We'll be live streaming it globally. I want every one of you there, I continued, not just watching, but participating, because this isn't just my company, it's ours. We built it together, and we'll defend it together. The energy in the room was electric. These people weren't just employees, they were partners in something revolutionary. One more thing, I added. Sarah's new company, SecureFlow, has been trying to poach our talent. They're offering huge compensation packages, stock options, whatever it takes to get our technology. A murmur of anger ran through the crowd. But here's what they don't understand. What we've built here isn't just technology, it's a vision of how business software should work, how companies should treat their customers, how innovation should serve the greater good. I saw heads nodding, faces set with determination. They think they can buy that vision, copy it, replicate our success, but they can't. Because our success isn't built on stolen secrets or perfect timing. It's built on something they've never understood, the power of people working together to create something truly revolutionary. The room erupted in applause. As it died down, I made my final point. Tomorrow, we show the world who we really are, not through accusations or attacks, but through transparency and truth. We'll open our development logs, share our journey, demonstrate our innovations. And when Robert Williams takes the stage an hour later, everyone will already know the truth. After the meeting, Lisa and Jason stayed behind as the room cleared out. "That was impressive," Jason said. "But are you sure about not using Patterson's evidence? It could really hurt them." I nodded. "We don't need to hurt them. Success is the best revenge, and we're already winning. Tomorrow, we just need to show everyone why." Lisa was working on her laptop. "The development logs are ready. Every commit, every test, every breakthrough, all time-stamped and verifiable. When people see how we actually built this platform, they'll understand that real innovation doesn't come from stealing secrets," I finished. "It comes from having the courage to imagine something better." As they left to make final preparations, I sat down at my desk and opened my email. There was a message from Sarah sent just minutes ago. "Last chance, Marcus. Call off the press conference. You have no idea what Dad has prepared for his speech. He'll destroy you." I typed a simple reply. "Watch the press conference, Sarah. It's time you learned what real innovation looks like. Tomorrow would be more than just a defense of our company. It would be a demonstration of everything I'd learned since walking away from Patterson and Mills, since refusing to accept the limitations others tried to place on me. Sarah and her father thought they could win through manipulation and fear. They were about to learn that in the modern business world, transparency and innovation were more powerful than any old money connections or underhanded tactics." I looked out at the city lights, thinking about how far we'd come. Tomorrow would be another turning point, but this time I wasn't the underdog hoping for a chance. I was the innovator showing the world what was possible when you refused to play by the old rules. The morning of the press conference dawned clear and bright. I stood in my office, adjusting my tie as news channels played on multiple screens. Every business network was covering both our upcoming press conference and Robert Williams's speech. "Ready for this?" Lisa asked, walking in with her tablet. She'd been at the office all night, ensuring our presentation was perfect. "More than ready," I replied. "How's the team?" "Everyone's here. All 200 employees, plus our early investors and first clients. The main conference room is packed." Jason burst in, phone to his ear. "Marcus, we've got a situation. Robert Williams just moved his speech up. He's starting in 15 minutes, same time as our press conference." I smiled, surprising both of them. "Perfect." "Perfect?" Jason looked confused. "This is a direct attempt to steal our thunder, to make us look reactive instead of proactive," I finished. "To make it seem like we're scrambling to respond to his accusations rather than telling our own story." Lisa caught on first, which is exactly what we predicted they'd do, and exactly what we prepared for. I nodded, checking my watch. "Is everything in place?" "All set," Lisa confirmed. "Every business news channel is carrying both events. Split screens, dual coverage, exactly what we wanted." "And our special guest?" Jason grinned. "Waiting in the wings. Robert has no idea." We headed down to the main conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Robert Williams taking the stage at the National Business Forum on one screen, while another showed our own conference room filling with press. "Mr. Reynolds." A young assistant rushed up. "Mrs. Reynolds, I mean, Ms. Williams is here. She's demanding to be let in." I exchanged glances with Lisa and Jason. This wasn't part of the plan, but let her in, I decided. Give her a seat in the front row. As Sarah was escorted to her seat, I saw her take in the scene. The packed room, the professional setup, the confidence of our team. For a moment, her carefully maintained composure slipped, showing a flash of uncertainty. On the screens, Robert Williams began his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about ethics in business, about how success built on betrayal and stolen information is no success at all. Lisa squeezed my arm. That's your cue. I walked onto our stage, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. Every major tech publication was here, every business channel ready to broadcast. Sarah sat in the front row, her expression a mixture of disdain and nervousness. Good morning, I began, my voice steady. Today, I want to talk about innovation, real innovation, not the kind that comes from stealing secrets or exploiting weaknesses, but the kind that comes from daring to imagine something better. On the split screens, I could see Robert Williams faltering slightly as he realized our press conference was proceeding simultaneously. 3 years ago, I had an idea, I continued. A way to revolutionize how businesses manage their inventory. Not by making minor improvements to existing systems, but by completely rethinking the fundamentals. I gestured, and Lisa started our presentation. On the screens behind me, our platform's development timeline appeared, complete with dated documentation, progressive versions, and security architecture evolution. Every innovation you see here was developed from scratch, documented in real time, and verified by independent auditors. But don't take my word for it. I nodded to Jason, who opened the side door. A murmur ran through the crowd as Richard Patterson walked in. Sarah's sharp intake of breath was audible in the sudden quiet. Her father, on the split screen, stopped mid-sentence as he spotted Patterson on the live feed. Mr. Patterson, I said, your firm was one of our first beta testers. Can you tell us about your experience with our platform's development? Patterson stepped up to the microphone. I've been in business for 40 years. I've seen every trick, every shortcut, every attempt to game the system. What Marcus Reynolds and his team have built is none of those things. It's genuine innovation developed through hard work and brilliant engineering. On the other screen, Robert Williams was visibly sweating. This wasn't part of his script, but let's talk about specific allegations, I continued. There are claims that we timed our launch to coincide with Inventory Pro's security crisis. Lisa? Lisa stepped forward, pulling up another screen. Our platform's security architecture was developed and documented 6 months before Inventory Pro's breach. In fact, our decentralized approach specifically addressed vulnerabilities that we identified as common in traditional systems, vulnerabilities that Inventory Pro, unfortunately, failed to recognize. I saw Sarah shifting uncomfortably in her seat as the evidence mounted. Her father's speech had devolved into vague accusations while we were presenting concrete, verifiable facts. But perhaps the most telling evidence, I said, comes from our clients themselves, the screen filled with testimonials from businesses of all sizes, each describing how our platform had transformed their operations. Among them was a familiar face, David Henderson, my first investor. I believed in Marcus's vision when it was just an idea, Henderson said in his recorded message. I watched him build it from nothing, through countless late nights and early mornings. Anyone suggesting this technology was stolen or copied simply doesn't understand the innovation involved. Sarah stood abruptly, heading for the door, but before she could reach it, I made my final move. And now, I'd like to announce something new. The room quieted again. Today, we're making our development process open source. Every line of code, every security feature, every innovation, it's all being made public because we believe that real innovation should lift everyone up, not tear anyone down. The room erupted in applause. On the split screen, Robert Williams's speech had completely derailed as reporters began leaving to call in the story about our announcement. One final thing, I added as the applause died down. To Mr. Williams and anyone else suggesting our success was built on stolen information. Our lawyers will be in touch. Not because we want to fight, but because the truth matters, innovation matters, and we will always defend both. The press conference ended with a standing ovation. As reporters swarmed forward with questions, I caught a glimpse of Sarah slipping out the door, her face ashen. On the screens, her father's podium stood empty. He'd apparently abandoned his speech halfway through. Later, in my office, Lisa and Jason were reviewing the coverage. Every headline told the same story. Innovation triumphs, Reynolds platform. Proves its worth, open source announcement silences critics, Williams' speech backfires as Reynolds reveals all. Think they'll try anything else? Jason asked. I shook my head. They can't. We've made everything public. Any attack now would just make them look worse. Marcus, Lisa called from her laptop. You need to see this. Sarah's new company, SecureFlow. They just announced they're postponing their launch indefinitely. I wasn't surprised. Their entire strategy had been based on copying our technology and poaching our talent. With our code now open source and our development process public, they had nothing left to steal. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. You didn't have to humiliate us like that. I typed back, I didn't humiliate you. I just showed everyone the truth. Maybe it's time you learned from it. Looking out at the city skyline, I thought about how far we'd come, from late nights working alone on a dream to building a company that was changing the industry. Sarah and her father had tried to tear us down the only way they knew how, through manipulation and lies. But we'd won by doing something they never understood, creating real value, fostering real innovation, and believing that the truth, when properly presented, would always prevail. What's next? Lisa asked, interrupting my thoughts. I smiled, turning back to my team. Now? Now we keep innovating, because that's what we do best. The aftermath of the press conference hit like a tsunami. Our stock price soared as investors recognized the value of our transparency. Tech blogs were calling our open-source announcement a masterclass in corporate ethics. But I knew better than to think Sarah and Robert Williams would accept defeat gracefully. I was reviewing merger proposals in my office when my assistant burst in. Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Williams is here, with lawyers, and Ms. Williams is with him. Before I could respond, they pushed past her into my office. Robert looked like he'd aged a decade since his failed speech. Sarah stood slightly behind him, her usual confidence replaced by barely contained fury. 3 men in expensive suits, their lawyers, completed the entourage. This ends now, Robert growled, throwing a stack of papers on my desk. We're filing a lawsuit for corporate espionage, defamation, and intellectual property theft. I didn't touch the papers. Instead, I pressed the intercom. Lisa, Jason, could you join us and bring the Patterson files? You humiliated me, Robert continued, his face reddening. Decades of reputation destroyed in an hour. My own board is calling for my complete separation from any business ventures. You humiliated yourself, I replied calmly. I just showed everyone the truth. Sarah stepped forward. The truth? You ambushed us. You turned Richard Patterson against us. I did exactly what you taught me to do, I interrupted, my voice level. I played the game better than you. Lisa and Jason entered carrying their own stack of documents. The contrast between our two teams was stark, their side angry and defensive, ours calm and prepared. Before you file that lawsuit, I said, you should know that we've already submitted comprehensive documentation to the SEC. Every piece of code, every development log, every security feature, all time-stamped and verified. We also included evidence of SecureFlow's attempts to poach our employees for trade secrets. One of their lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Williams, you didn't mention there's more. I continued. We have records of every conversation where you, Sarah, mocked this company as a pathetic dream. Every time you dismissed our innovation as impossible. It's quite a contrast to your recent claims that I must have stolen the ideas from your family. You're bluffing, Sarah snapped, but her voice wavered. Lisa opened her laptop, pulling up a video compilation. There was Sarah at various social events, laughing about my cute little startup dreams. There she was, telling friends how I was delusional to think I could compete with established companies. Social media is fascinating, Lisa commented. People post so much without thinking about how it might look later. Robert's lawyers were now actively trying to get his attention, but he waved them off. You think you've won, don't you? That you can just destroy everything I built and walk away? No, Robert. You destroyed what you built. You got complacent. You stopped innovating. You thought your position was untouchable, so you never looked for vulnerabilities until it was too late. How dare you lecture me about business, he snarled. I built an empire while you were still playing with computers in your garage. And now your empire is gone, I said quietly. Not because I stole anything, but because I built something better. Something you could have built yourself if you hadn't been so convinced of your own superiority. Sarah stepped forward, her designer, heels clicking on the hardwood floor. You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? Getting close to our family, learning our business. Actually, Jason interrupted, we have the original concept drawings and code from before Marcus even met you. Dated, documented, and verified by independent experts. Would you like to see them? One of their lawyers cleared his throat. Mr. Williams, Ms. Williams, I strongly advise against continuing this conversation. The documentation they've presented... Shut up, Robert snapped. I'm not leaving until what? I stood up. Until you threaten me? Try to bully me like you've bullied everyone else in your life? Those tactics don't work anymore, Robert. The world has changed. The world hasn't changed, he scoffed. Money and power still rule everything. No. I gestured around my office, at the screens showing our soaring stock price, at the awards for innovation lining the walls. Innovation rules everything. Transparency rules everything. The ability to create something new and valuable. That's what matters now. Create? Sarah laughed bitterly. You destroyed our family's legacy. Your family's legacy destroyed itself. Inventory Pro failed because it stopped serving its customers' needs. It failed because you were so busy protecting your position that you forgot to improve your product. Robert's face had turned an alarming shade of red. You smug little... Mr. Williams, Lisa cut in sharply. Before you say anything else, remember that this office records all meetings for security purposes. That stopped him cold. Finally, one of his lawyers managed to get his attention. Sir, we need to leave. Now. Continuing this conversation can only damage our legal position. Robert seemed to deflate suddenly, looking old and tired. This isn't over, Reynolds? Actually, it is. I pulled out a file of my own. This is a formal cease and desist letter regarding your public accusations. It includes a detailed timeline of our platform's development and documentation of your recent attempts to damage our reputation. Push this any further, and we'll be forced to take legal action. You wouldn't dare, Sarah hissed. Try me. I met her gaze steadily. You taught me to be ruthless, remember? To do whatever it takes to win. Well, I learned. I just found a better way to do it. The lawyers were practically dragging Robert toward the door now. Sarah lingered for a moment, looking around the office that could have been part of her life. If she'd believed in me. You know what the funny thing is? I said to her. If you had supported me, this could have been our success story, not just mine. We could have built this together. Something flickered in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or just anger at what she'd lost. I never believed in fairy tales. No, I agreed. You only believed in power and control. That was your mistake. After they left, Lisa, Jason, and I stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Jason spoke. Think that's really the end of it? They'll probably try something else, Lisa mused. People like that don't give up easily. Let them try, I said, turning to look out at the city. We've got nothing to hide and nothing to fear. That's a strength they'll never understand. And phone buzzed, a message from Richard Patterson. Just heard about Robert's visit. Need any backup? I smiled, typing back, no, but thanks. We handled it our way. Your way seems to be working pretty well, he replied. The old guard could learn something from you, if they were capable of learning. Looking out at the city skyline, I thought about how much had changed, not just in business, but in me. I'd gone from someone who feared confrontation to someone who could stand his ground, from someone who doubted his dreams to someone who'd made them reality. What now? Lisa asked, pulling me from my thoughts. Now we get back to work, I said. Because while they're plotting revenge, we'll be doing what we do best, innovating, creating, building something that actually matters. As they left my office, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. On the screen was our platform's dashboard, showing real-time data from millions of businesses worldwide using our system. Each data point represented a company we were helping, a problem we were solving, a future we were building. Sarah and Robert thought this was about revenge or power. They couldn't understand that it was always about something bigger, the chance to create real value, to solve real problems, to build something that made the world a little bit better. Let them plot their revenge. We had more important things to do. 1 year after the confrontation in my office, I stood on stage at the National Technology Awards, accepting the Innovation of the Year award. The irony wasn't lost on anyone that this was the same stage where Robert Williams had tried to destroy me just 12 months ago. Innovation isn't just about technology, I said into the microphone, looking out at the packed auditorium. It's about having the courage to imagine something better and the persistence to make it real. In the front row, I could see Lisa and Jason beaming. Our company had grown to over 1,000 employees now, with offices in 12 countries. The platform that Sarah had once mocked as a cute little startup dream was now the industry standard, used by millions of businesses worldwide. After the ceremony, as we celebrated with the team, my assistant approached with a tablet. Mr. Reynolds, you should see this. It was a news article. Secure flow files for bankruptcy. Former Inventory Pro executives face SEC investigation. The subtitle was even more interesting. Sarah Williams steps down as CEO amid allegations of corporate espionage. Looks like their attempts to copy our technology didn't work out, Lisa commented, reading over my shoulder. Hard to copy something when the original is open source and constantly improving, Jason added with a grin. I handed the tablet back, feeling no satisfaction in their failure. How's the education initiative coming along? Lisa's eyes lit up. Amazing. We've already provided free licenses to over 500 small business schools. The students are using our platform to learn real-world inventory management. This was what real success looked like, not destroying competitors, but creating value for others. We'd launched the education initiative 6 months ago, providing our technology free to schools and startups. It was our way of ensuring that the next generation of entrepreneurs would have tools we never had. Mr. Reynolds, a young woman, approached our group, looking nervous. I'm Amanda Chen from Business Weekly. Could I get a quick comment about Sarah Williams' resignation from SecureFlow? I considered for a moment. The only comment I'll make is this. Success in today's business world comes from innovation and value creation, not from trying to copy others' achievements. And what about Robert Williams? Sources say he's left the country. I wish him well, I said simply. Sometimes losing everything teaches us what really matters. After the reporter left, Jason raised an eyebrow. Pretty generous response, considering everything they tried to do to us. I shrugged. Their failure isn't our success. Our success is what we've built, what we continue to build. Back at the office the next day, I had a surprise visitor, Richard Patterson. Quite a speech last night, he said, settling into a chair. Very diplomatic about the Williams situation. No point in kicking them when they're down. Patterson nodded approvingly. You know, when you walked out of my office 3 years ago, I thought you were making a huge mistake. Now Patterson and Mills uses your platform for all our inventory management. Times really have changed. Speaking of change, I pulled out a folder. I have a proposal for you. He took it, eyebrows rising as he read. A partnership? You want to work with the old dinosaur you walked away from? I walked away from a job, not from possibilities. Your firm has decades of business experience. We have cutting-edge technology. Together, we could help traditional companies transition into the digital age. Patterson was quiet for a long moment, reading through the proposal. Finally, he looked up. You're not just successful, Marcus. You're changing how business works. Sarah and Robert never understood that. They thought business was about power and control. And what do you think it's about now? After watching what you've built? He smiled. It's about creating something valuable, something that helps others succeed. After Patterson left, I walked through our office space. Everywhere, I saw people excited about their work, collaborating on new features, helping customers solve problems. This was what I dreamed of during those late nights working alone. Not just a successful company, but a place where innovation thrived. My phone buzzed. An email from Sarah. My finger hovered over the delete button, but something made me open it. Marcus, Secure Flow is finished. Dad's gone to Europe. Our family's reputation is in ruins. I suppose you're happy now. But I have to ask, why did you make your technology open source? You could have kept it proprietary, charged premium prices, built the kind of walls Dad always said were necessary for success. I don't understand how you won by giving things away. Sarah, I thought carefully before responding. Sarah, I didn't win by giving things away. I won by creating real value. The walls your father talked about don't work anymore. True success comes from innovation, transparency, and helping others succeed. I hope you find that truth for yourself someday. Marcus. Looking out at the city skyline from my office, I reflected on how much had changed. The corporate world Sarah and Robert had known, built on control, exclusivity, and power, was fading. In its place was something new, something better. Lisa knocked on my door. Ready for the strategy meeting? The team has some amazing ideas for the next generation. Of features, I smiled, gathering my things. Lead the way. As we walked to the conference room, I saw our company values displayed on the wall. Innovation, integrity, impact. 3 words that had guided us from a startup dream to a global technology leader. Sarah had once laughed at my dreams. Robert had tried to destroy them, but in the end, they had failed, not because I beat them, but because they never understood what real success looked like in the modern business world. It wasn't about destroying competition or maintaining control. It was about creating value, fostering innovation, and helping others succeed. That was the real empire I had built, not one based on fear and power, but on innovation and shared success, and that was an empire that would last. 5 years to the day after Sarah had first mocked my cute little startup dreams, I stood in my expanded office suite, preparing for a very different kind of meeting. Our company had just been valued at $50 billion, making us one of the fastest-growing tech companies in history. But today wasn't about business valuations or market share. They're here, Lisa announced from the doorway. Are you sure you want to do this? I nodded, straightening my tie. They need to see this, all of it. Walking into the conference room, I faced a group of young entrepreneurs, participants in our mentorship program. Among them was a familiar face that made me pause. Sarah's younger sister, Rachel Williams. She'd reached out 3 months ago, asking to join our program. Her email had been honest. I know my family has a complicated history with you, but I have ideas I believe in, ideas they never supported. Welcome, everyone, I began, taking in their eager faces. Today isn't about business strategies or market analysis. It's about something more fundamental, believing in your vision when no one else does. I gestured to the walls, where we'd mounted displays showing our company's journey. 5 years ago, I sat in a small apartment working on an idea everyone told me would fail. My wife at the time, I glanced at Rachel, who nodded slightly. She called it a cute little startup dream. Moving to the first display, I showed them my original sketches, the early code, the countless revisions. Every successful company you admire started exactly like this, with someone willing to believe in something that didn't exist yet. Rachel raised her hand. How did you maintain your confidence when everyone, especially my family, was so against it? The room quieted. They all knew the story. It had become almost legendary in the tech world, but they wanted to hear it from me. I stopped seeking validation from people who couldn't see my vision, I answered. Your father, your sister, they weren't wrong for believing in their way of doing business. They were wrong for thinking it was the only way. Moving through the displays, I showed them our evolution. The first office, the initial team, the launch that changed everything. But here's what most people don't know, I continued. The night before our launch, when Inventory Pro was facing its crisis, your father offered me a deal. Rachel leaned forward. This was family history she hadn't heard. He offered me a seat on Inventory Pro's board, a chance to be part of their legacy. In their world, that was success, being invited to join the established power structure. One of the young entrepreneurs spoke up. Why didn't you take it? Because real innovation isn't about joining someone else's legacy. It's about creating your own. That's what your sister and father never understood, Rachel. They thought success meant controlling the existing game. I wanted to change the game entirely. Walking them through our security architecture, our open source initiative, our education programs, I showed them how one innovation had led to another. We didn't just build a better inventory system. We created a new way of thinking about business. Technology, transparent, collaborative, focused on creating value for others. Rachel's voice was quiet. Is that why you helped those small businesses when Inventory Pro collapsed? You could have just let them fail. Success built on others' failure isn't real success, I replied. We succeeded because we solved real problems and created real value. The fact that we helped others succeed along the way, that's not just good ethics, it's good business. Moving to the windows, I showed them the construction across the street. That's our new innovation center. Free office space for startups, especially those led by people who've been told their dreams are too big or too risky. Like you were told, Rachel asked. Like we were all told at some point. I turned back to the group. Every person in this room has probably heard something similar. Too young, too inexperienced, too different from how things are usually done. Lisa joined us, adding her perspective. When Marcus first showed me his platform design, I thought it was impossibly ambitious. But then I realized that's exactly what innovation looks like before it becomes reality. It looks impossible. The rest of the session was a deep dive into each participant's projects. Rachel's idea, a platform for sustainable supply chain management, showed particular promise. She had her family's business instincts, but none of their limitations. After the others left, Rachel lingered. Have you heard from Sarah recently? Not since SecureFlow failed, I replied. How is she? Different. Humbled, maybe. She's teaching business classes at a community college. Rachel hesitated. She follows everything you do, you know. Every innovation, every success. I think she finally understands what she missed. I nodded, thinking about how life had its own way of teaching lessons. And your father? Still in Europe. He's written a book about the end of old business. Actually talks about you quite a bit, as the wake-up call he should have heeded. Looking out at the city, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. You know, Rachel, your father wasn't wrong about everything. Business is about legacy. He just didn't understand what kind of legacy matters today. What kind is that? The kind that lifts others up. The kind that creates opportunities. The kind that makes the world a little better than we found it, she smiled, gathering her things. That's why I came to your program, you know, not despite what happened with my family, but because of it. You showed me there's a different way to succeed. After Rachel left, I walked through our offices, now occupying 3 full floors. Everywhere I saw people engaged in creating, innovating, solving problems. This was my real victory. Not the market valuation or industry awards, but building a place where dreams were taken seriously and innovation was celebrated. Lisa found me in my office later, reviewing applications for our next mentorship cohort. Rachel Williams has talent, she observed. Her sustainability platform could be revolutionary. She does, I agreed, and this time her family's name won't be what defines her success or failure. She'll get to define that for herself. Looking out at the setting sun, I thought about how far we'd come, from a late-night dream that made my wife laugh to a global company that was changing how business worked. But more importantly, we'd shown that success didn't have to come at others' expense, that the biggest dreams were the ones that made room for other dreamers. Sarah had once called my ambitions a cute little startup dream. She'd been wrong about the little part, but she'd been right about one thing. It had started with a dream. The difference was, I'd believed in that dream enough to make it reality. And now, through our mentorship program, our innovation center, our education initiatives, we were helping others do the same. That was the real empire I'd built. Not one that demanded loyalty, but one that inspired innovation. Not one that hoarded power, but one that empowered others. The best revenge, it turned out, wasn't proving my critics wrong. It was showing everyone a better way to be right. 10 years after that first night when Sarah had laughed at my dreams, I stood at the podium of the World Business Innovation Summit. The audience was filled with entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and students from around the globe. Our company's journey had become a case study in business schools worldwide, but today wasn't about the past. Innovation isn't a destination, I began, looking out at the sea of faces. It's a constant journey. The moment you think you've arrived, that's when you start to fail. In the front row, I could see Lisa and Jason, now heading their own divisions within our expanded enterprise. Next to them sat Richard Patterson, who had become not just a partner, but a mentor in bridging the old and new worlds of business. And there, somewhat surprisingly, was Sarah. She'd reached out last month, asking permission to attend. Her email had been different from the angry, accusatory messages of the past. I've been teaching business for 3 years now. My students all study your company, your innovations. I think it's time I truly understood what I failed to see back then. 10 years ago, I continued, someone very close to me laughed at my dreams, called them cute, impossible, naive. Today, those dreams have helped millions of businesses succeed, created thousands of jobs, and sparked countless innovations. Moving from the podium, I walked the stage, engaging directly with the audience. But here's what matters. It was never about proving critics wrong. It was about proving that there's a better way to do business, a way that creates value instead of just extracting it, a way that lifts others up instead of pushing them down. On the screens behind me, images appeared showing our company's evolution, the first small office, the growing team, the global expansion. But more importantly, it showed the businesses we'd helped, the entrepreneurs we'd supported, the innovations we'd inspired. Our latest initiative, I announced, is the Global Innovation Fund, $1 billion committed to supporting entrepreneurs who dare to think differently, especially those who've been told their dreams are too big, too different, or too disruptive. The CI audience erupted in applause. In the front row, I saw Sarah's expression change, not quite a smile, but a look of understanding. We're especially focusing on entrepreneurs from underserved communities, those without access to traditional networks of power and privilege. Because innovation doesn't care about your background, your connections, or your family name. It cares about your ideas and your determination to make them real. After the speech, at the reception, Sarah approached me. She looked different, humbler, more thoughtful than the woman who had once dismissed my ambitions. "Your sister Rachel's sustainability platform is doing well," I said, breaking the ice. She nodded. "I know, she's doing everything I should have done, seeing possibilities instead of limitations, learning from setbacks instead of fearing them. It's never too late to learn those lessons." "No," she agreed quietly. "It's not. That's actually why I'm here. My students, they all want to be the next you, but I've been teaching them wrong. I've been teaching business the way my father taught me, as a game of power and control. And now I want to teach them what you actually built. Not just a successful company, but a new way of thinking about success itself." She paused. "Would you consider speaking to my class?" The request surprised me. "You want me to speak to your students. They need to hear your story, not the simplified version in textbooks, but the real story, about believing in something when everyone tells you you're wrong, about creating value instead of just chasing profit." Looking at her, I saw no trace of the dismissive woman who had mocked my dreams. In her place was someone who had learned hard lessons about what really matters in business and in life. "I'll do it," I said, "but not just a speech. Let's make it a workshop. Bring their ideas, their dreams. Let's show them how to make them real." Later, walking through our headquarters with Lisa and Jason, I reflected on how far we'd come. The building hummed with energy as teams worked on new innovations, solved new problems, created new possibilities. "Sarah's changed," Lisa observed. "Never thought I'd see the day." "People can surprise you," I replied. "Sometimes they just need to see a better way." Jason laughed. "Remember when she said you'd be nothing without her? Now her students study your methods, your innovations." "It was never about proving her wrong," I reminded him. "It was about proving there was a right way to succeed." In my office, I looked at the wall where we'd mounted my original business plan, the one Sarah had once called a cute little dream. Next to it hung our company values, now adopted by organizations worldwide: innovation, integrity, impact. My phone buzzed. A message from Rachel Williams. "Just closed our Series B funding. The sustainability platform is going global. Thank you for showing me that dreams aren't just cute, they're the foundation of real change." I smiled, thinking about how one dream had sparked so many others. Sarah had thought she was dismissing a foolish fantasy that night 10 years ago. Instead, she had witnessed the beginning of a revolution in how business could work. Looking out at the city lights, I thought about all the dreamers out there working late into the night on their own visions of what could be. Some would be told their dreams were too big, too different, too disruptive to succeed, but now they had something I didn't have when I started: proof that those dreams could become reality. Proof that success didn't have to mean following the old rules or playing the old games. Proof that the biggest dreams were often the ones that helped others dream bigger too. The empire I'd built wasn't just about technology or market share. It was about showing that business could be a force for positive change. That true success came not from dominating others, but from empowering them. That the best dreams weren't the ones that made you rich, but the ones that made the world richer. Sarah had laughed at my dreams, but in the end, those dreams had changed not just my life, but countless others. And that was worth more than any empire could ever be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.